Ready to move on to the lesson? Let's do it. So today we're going to be talking about arguments, specifically deductive arguments. But before we jump to that, what was the day that Tuesday, when we were in class together, we talked about truth and belief, how we want to line these up. We want to believe what is true and real about the world. And we talked about a bunch of benefits that we have. If you know the truth about money, you'll potentially make a lot of money. If you know the truth about God, you'll be brought into salvation. So we see that this is a worthy goal. Truth is a worthy goal. Okay, what are some ways that we get there, or what are some tools for believing truth? What are some things that we can use to believe truth? Thomas, what's something that we can use to help us believe what is true?
The Bible.
Yes, there we go. The Bible. That's usually everyone's first response, and that's a good one. Okay, what else? What are some other things we can use? Annika. Oh, Max, you were going to say something. Max, go for it.
Let her go ahead. I wasn't sure what I was going to say.
Okay. Annika.
Going to church.
Yes, church. That's great.
Can I go now?
Yeah. I can't wait to hear.
The holy water.
Okay, holy water. Is that what you said? Okay. Holy water. Okay. So, Max, how does holy water help us know what is true?
I don't know. It's just holy. It's made out of God, I think.
Holy water.
It's blessed
Okay.
by the Pope, Max.
What do you guys think? You guys agree that we should keep holy water on the list? Okay, Nate's saying yeah, but I think okay, Bella says no. Legitimately, what? Holy water? No, yes or no? Okay, I think we're gonna put a question mark next to it. I don't know for sure if we can learn truth from holy water.
It was deserving of a question mark, but it didn't deserve to be erased.
I think yeah, I agree with you, Nate. Yeah, we'll put a question mark. Holy water? Okay. Let's just move on. That was a great way to segue into what I'm about to talk about. So one of the tools that we can use to come to truth is logic, okay? What is logic? Someone go ahead and give a definition, or just say what they think of when they think of logic. Wow, Hudson just darted out of the room. This is quite the class we're having today. Maddie, go for it. What is logic?
Like, it's hard to explain. Yeah, I get that.
Okay.
He's a rapper.
All right. Well, that concludes our class today. Just remember that what you remembered today is logic. The rapper can help you learn truth. All right. We'll see you guys on Monday. I hope you guys don't tell your parents what you learned. No, that is not what I'm talking about. Okay. Logic. It is kind of hard to define, but does it involve our emotions or does it involve more of our thoughts? Let's just think about that. Thoughts. That's right. Yeah, thoughts. Okay, so it's thinking, and it's thinking through ideas in a very systematic and a reasonable way. So it's thinking, it's reasoning. Okay, and it's now some of you guys aren't going to like this. Logic is like math, but with words. Okay, so 2 plus 2. What logically follows from 2 plus 2? You can just hold it up. Oh, maybe it's 1, maybe it's, yeah, there we go, 4. Okay, there you go. You guys just did logic, okay? Some of you didn't because you put up the wrong number, but we'll work on that. So this is what logic is, but it's like math with words, okay? It's like math with words. So I just made all of you mad because those of you that don't like words are like, oh, well, why do we have to have the words? Those of you that don't like math, why do we have to have the math? Well, deal with it. So, oh gosh, logic can actually help us come to truth, but it doesn't tell us what's true like the Bible, but it makes us be consistent. Okay, so put this word down, consistent. So I'm going to put 2 beliefs up here. I believe God exists. And then I believe God does not exist. The goal with logic is to be consistent, and logic tells us that, well, let me ask you guys, can we believe these 2 things at the same time and be right about both of them? Anyone want to say yep? No? Okay. So, no, you're absolutely right. Only one of these is actually reality. Only one of these is actually true. So when we're thinking about our beliefs that we have, we can know that, well, one of these has got to go if I'm going to believe what's true. I'm going to tend to believe the top one. And hopefully you guys are too. But if I believe both of them, that just doesn't make sense. And so you guys already know how logic works. You guys already know deep down that things need to be logical. That's why when you were a little kid, you would say things like, that's not fair, or that doesn't make sense when your sibling got a different punishment than you, okay? Because you want these things to work out right, because you want things to be consistent. Okay, and we want to be consistent in our beliefs. So the logic that we are talking about today is deductive logic, okay? Has anyone heard of deductive logic? Okay, Nate has. Have you guys heard of Sherlock Holmes? Sherlock Holmes, whenever he sees patterns in the crime scene and then gets it right, Watson's always like, how'd you figure that out? And then he always turns to his sidekick Watson and says, it's simple
Elementary Watson.
It's elementary Watson, but he also says it's deduction Watson. You just have to use deduction. Now, Nate, you're right. We're moving from elementary to deduction today. If you're confused, don't worry about it. Just worry about this. Deductive logic consists of 2 premises, and a conclusion. Okay. And it doesn't have to be 2. It could be 2 or more. So 2 or more premises and a conclusion. Okay, Mr. Swigert, what's a premises? Good question, random student. A premises is just a statement or a claim. And then a conclusion is the argument or the main point you're trying to make. So you guys are used to conclusions, okay? This is typically what you start with when you're arguing with your parents if you're trying to get something. So, mom, well, Ellie would call her Mrs. Green because that would not be appropriate to call your mom mom. Ellie's like, what the heck? Okay, so mom, I want to go to the movies and I think I should be allowed to. Okay, that's an argument. So you typically are used to starting with your conclusion and then you'll give the reasons why. You'll say, because every Tuesday, you usually let me do one fun thing. And today's Tuesday. That's a logical argument. Now, it's probably not a very good one, but it still is a logical argument. Okay, let me show you guys an example of a logical argument, and then we'll come up with one. Okay, this is a logical argument. You have your two premises, 1, 2, and then a conclusion. If God exists, he is loving. God exists, therefore, God is loving. Pretty simple. Now, it's not so simple when you're trying to come up with one. Okay, let's go back over here and come up with an argument. So, what is something that you guys would like to argue?
I don't want to do the dishes.
Okay. So it's pretty, okay, so let's say this. How about Nate doesn't want to do the dishes, but let's say he's arguing that he shouldn't have to do the dishes.
I shouldn't have to do the dishes.
Okay, conclusion. That's going to be our conclusion. Nate shouldn't have to do the dishes. You guys probably can't see that anymore. Dishes. And pay attention, because you guys are going to be coming up with your own arguments on your homework today. So Nate comes up with the conclusion. I shouldn't have to do the dishes. Okay, what is a reason that he shouldn't have to do the dishes, or a claim that leads to this conclusion?
I have homework to do.
Okay, I have homework to do. So Nate has homework to do. And now we're going to come up with a statement that ties these two together. So someone other than Nate, come up with a statement that ties these two together, that says, because of this, Nate shouldn't have to do the dishes. What's a statement that ties these two together? Okay.
He has too much homework, so he can't do the
Because Nate worked hard.
Okay. So Louis, okay, let's start with Louis. So Louis, what did you say?
He has too much homework, so he can't do the dishes.
Okay. So we need to have a statement like this that says, when Nate has homework, what, Louis?
He cannot do the dishes.
That's right. So when Nate has homework, he shouldn't have to do the dishes. That's going to be our starting statement. Okay. This is a pretty good argument. If you guys were able to, wouldn't it be nice if you guys were able to argue like this with your parents and they were like, whoa, that's logically consistent. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, no, that would be awesome if you're able to actually use logic to kind of help benefit you in these situations. Now, the problem is you might get it wrong, and then your parents could say, son, daughter, That's not logically consistent. I'm sorry. Go do the dishes. It could backfire. So let's see if this argument actually works. Again, it's like math with words. Whenever Nate has homework, he shouldn't have to do the dishes. Nate has homework. Therefore, Nate shouldn't have to do the dishes. Does this argument make sense? Does this argument make sense? Yeah, it does. It actually works, okay? And I'm going to introduce you guys to the words valid and invalid in a little bit. And we're going to see that this argument is valid. In fact, let's just talk about that right now. What makes an argument valid or invalid? Well, if this is how we're going to define valid. If the premises are true, sorry for the handwriting. Then the conclusion must be true. Okay. If the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. Okay, I'm gonna make you guys do a test. So have a place where you can write down valid or invalid. You can type it on your notes. So let's come over to this argument, and we're gonna ask, is it valid or invalid? So if God exists, he is loving. God exists, therefore God is loving. So write down on your paper or type in valid or invalid. Valid or invalid. And then I'm going to ask someone, I'm going to pick on someone, and they're going to have to share what they think it is. Okay. Let's pick on Aiden. Aiden, do you think this argument is valid or invalid? Aiden, can you hear me? Oh, he typed it in. Thank you. Okay, Aiden says valid in the chat, and he is, well, let's see what you guys think. You guys think he's right or wrong? You guys agree with Aiden? Okay, Ethan says it's not valid. Ethan, why do you say it's not valid? I can't hear you, Ethan, for some reason. Can you guys hear Ethan? No. Huh. Okay. I'll just kind of end the question. Is this valid or invalid? It is valid argument. And here's the reason why. Because if this is true and this is true, this must be true. If the premises are true, this must be true. If God exists, he is loving. God exists. Therefore, God is loving. Okay, let's go to another argument. And we're going to ask ourselves, is it valid? Actually, let's change this one to make it invalid. Therefore, God is not loving. Okay, this is clearly invalid. It's obvious because it has opposite. It believes the opposite of this. Okay, it's pretty clear to see when it's valid or invalid. Okay, now this one might be a little trickier. Is this argument valid or invalid? I'm going to read it. All men are mortal. Okay, that just means all men die. Mr. Ferguson is mortal. Therefore, Mr. Ferguson is a man. What do you guys think? Valid or invalid? Type it out. Well, don't put your thumb. Don't put your thumb up because we don't want to give it away. All men are mortal. okay? Mr. Ferguson is mortal. Therefore, Mr. Ferguson is a man. You're gonna have to think about it, and I want you to be able to give a reason why if I call on you. Valid or invalid? Okay, Miss Ellie Green. Is
I
this
said
argument
invalid
okay? Why did you say invalid?
because, okay, Mr. Ferguson is not a woman, but nobody knows, obviously. So, like, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, so let's use the definition of valid to explain why. So why is this invalid? So you're correct. So Ellie's correct. This argument is invalid. But why? Ellie, go for it.
Um, Wait, I had an answer and then I like totally forgot, and now my mind is like blank.
Okay. Someone use the definition of valid to explain why this is invalid. Go for it, anyone. Okay. Aiden. Sorry. A student just texted me that we're assuming gender. So yeah, and that's fine. So, so I think it's good that we're assuming gender. Okay, so we're assuming that yes, that man is a thing. All right. Okay, so let me explain why this is valid or invalid, and pay attention because you guys are gonna have to do this on your assignment. So all men. So the definition of valid is that if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. So let's think about the premises. All men are mortal. Okay, that means that if you're a man, you die. Okay, Mr. Ferguson is mortal. That means he dies. Does that make him a man necessarily? No, it doesn't. Okay. Um, no, it doesn't. So the conclusion actually doesn't follow from the premises. That makes it invalid. Okay. Let's practice another one. Okay, let's practice another one. Okay, well, before we get this, so is this statement true? Mr. Ferguson is a man. Yes, yes, it is. We're assuming gender here. Yes, Mr. Ferguson's a man, but we don't care about whether it's true or not when we're talking about whether the argument's valid or invalid. Okay, let me give you another example, and you guys are going to see whether, and I'm going to ask you guys whether it's valid or invalid. Actually, okay, is this argument valid or invalid? All men are mortal. Mr. Ferguson is a man. Therefore, Mr. Ferguson is mortal. Valid or invalid? Type it in on your Google Doc. Okay. Bella, what do you think? Valid or invalid?
I think it's valid
Why do you think it's valid?
because if Mr. Ferguson's a man and all men are mortal, then Mr. Ferguson is mortal.
Exactly. So if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. That's exactly right. Okay, good. Okay, now I'm going to put another one up there, and I'm going to call on someone else. Okay, what about this argument? All men are mortal. Jesus is a man. Therefore, Jesus is mortal. Valid or invalid? So don't answer yet. Just write it down, and then I'll call on someone. Jacob Yenchek. What do you think? Valid or invalid?
Invalid.
Okay, why do you think it's okay? Let's ask the rest of the class. You guys agree with him? Valid or invalid? Wait, so yeah, so if you think it's valid, put your thumb up. If you think it's invalid, thumb down. Valid or invalid? Okay, there's a mix. Okay, this is actually valid. Okay, this argument is valid. Because if this is true, if all men are mortal, and this is true, Jesus is a man, then the conclusion must be true. Jesus is mortal. Okay, it's a valid argument because the conclusion matches up with the premises. Now, we don't care whether it's true or not when we're talking about whether an argument is valid or not, okay? Does that make sense? We just care if the argument works when we're talking about whether it's valid or not. Okay. I don't think we're quite ready to do an assignment on this. So actually, no, I'm gonna change your guys' assignment. So go to your assignment. And instead of having you guys come up with arguments that are valid or invalid, I'm going to have you practice recognizing whether arguments are valid or invalid, okay? And remember, an argument's valid if the conclusion matches up with the premises. So I'm going to add some arguments to your, I'm going to add 4 arguments to your Google Doc, and then you guys are going to go in there and just say whether they're valid or invalid. Okay,
Which
so
Google
that's
Doc?
the Google Doc that says that's titled 4 arguments. Okay, so don't listen to the instructions, they're on there. In fact, I'm going to edit it right now.
Should we turn in our notes right now?
Yes, you can turn in your notes right now. Yep, that's good, or at least by the end of class. Okay, so I'm gonna add, again, I'm gonna add arguments. So you guys need to give me like a little bit of time before you do this assignment. And then you guys will go in and just basically recognize whether the argument is valid or invalid. Questions about the assignment that you guys have due on Tuesday? Okay, so you're not coming up with arguments, you are labeling whether they're valid or invalid. I'm gonna save this and then I'll add some later, probably this afternoon around like 1 o'clock. I got a question in the chat saying, do we have to turn in our notes? Yes, you do. If you have a picture of yours, that's totally fine. Just send that, just submit that. If it's just on the Google Doc, that's also fine. Okay, you guys are dismissed. Thank you for being a wonderful class. You guys made me laugh and smile today. But if you have any questions, stay back. See ya.
Thank you.
Hey,
Bye.
to.
Thank
Hey,
you,
hey.
Mr. Ferguson.
Mr. Swagger,
Yes.
a question.
Yeah.
How do I turn in the notes that I took today? Do I just post in Google Classroom?
Yes.
Or do I email to you?
No, you submit them in the Google Classroom. So there's an assignment called Thursday, September 17th. Do you see that?
I'm looking for it.
Oh, I didn't change. Oh wait, yeah, I did.
Should I just email it to you then?
No. So you see the assignment titled Thursday, September 17th?
September 17th. Is that today?
Yeah. Do you see? So it's
Yeah,
titled.
I do.
Okay.
So
So submit your notes via that.
I wrote them down on paper, so I'll just take a photo and attach to this one, okay? Bye-bye.
Okay, perfect. Bye. Gosh.